What do you think is probably your most exciting trip that you've ever taken?
Probably aside from the military excursions, I would say Africa.
Okay. Now, it's pretty easy to book an airline to go to Africa. Hop off the airplane, find a rental car company, and just go. Is that what you did?
Nope.
You hired a guide, didn't you?
When I was younger, I learned that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we hired an agent to coordinate it, and then when we got there, we had a guide, and that guide took us on a trip that we had somewhat planned from a macro standpoint. He did all the tactical stuff, and he took us to the micro places that we would not have thought of within the plan. As an example, we went to Cape Town. Well, Cape Town is on the map. Anybody can go to Cape Town, but there's a lot of things in Cape Town to see and learn. He put us on a train. It's called the Blue Train. And we took that Blue Train, which is an excursion train, all the way up through the different parts of Africa, the national parks, and we ended up in Victoria Falls. Well, Victoria Falls is on the map. But guess what? There are a lot of things to see, learn, and connect to. Connecting is the thing that guides do. They connect you to your plan and to your objective.
Starting your route to retirement.
Really excited to bring another episode of the Guided Retirement Show to you. I'm Dean Barber, founder, CEO of Barber Financial Group, your host of the Guided Retirement Show. Today, a very, very special guest, a good friend of mine, Tony Lewis. And those of you that have not had the opportunity to spend time with someone who was the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, today's your chance. Tony Lewis started out his military career at a very young age, wound up spending over 30 years in the military, and also became the CEO of one of the most recognized Fortune 500 company names in the United States. We're going to talk to Tony today about how he was able to accomplish all of that, retire at a very young age, and continue today to coach people on how to be successful in business and how to be successful in life. Please enjoy Tony's story here on the Guided Retirement Show. All right, Tony Lewis, you and I have known each other for almost 6 years now, and you've been instrumental in really helping me facilitate a lot of things in business life and personal life. You got a vast amount of experience. So I want to start with your background, Tony. You had a long career in the military. Talk to us a little bit about that first.
Well, I went to school at a land-grant college, and it was in the days when there was a real draft. And so when you got your diploma, on the other hand, they gave you your draft papers. And it was the early 60s, and it was Vietnam going on, and being a smart, as I thought, college kid, figuring a way out of going to Vietnam in the rice paddies with a rifle, I found out that you could go to advanced ROTC and be a pilot, and you had to give 6 years of your military career. However, Vietnam probably be over by then. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But it was good for me to go there. I left the military and went right to the airlines. And then in the early 70s with the energy crisis, got laid off. And I went into the Air National Guard and spent 31 more years. So I had a total of 37 years of military. And during those 31 years, I got a real job and started down on the Chicago Board of Trade. I had a seat trading commodities, which was my college background in agricultural economics. After that, I got to know a lot of the industry people, like ADM and Cargill, Continental, Ralston. And at that time, the protein shortage in the world happened, and the Russians bought a lot of wheat. And all of a sudden, these companies just blossomed like you can't believe. And they were offering me a job as a management trainee. So I went in as a management trainee to Continental Grain. Worked my way up to senior vice president. And it didn't take many years, in charge of the Pacific and the Western United States. And I got a call one day from the chairman of ConAgra, who asked me to come and interview to be a CEO at ConAgra, where they were having really a lot of problems financially, especially on the commodity side.
All right, so you became then CEO of ConAgra in your 40s, right? And you were CEO at ConAgra for 11 years.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that experience, as CEO of a major Fortune 500 company like that. What did you learn?
Well, fortunately, I was in the military, and I had a lot of leadership development, which is something you get when you go to war. It just comes naturally. You got to make a lot of tough decisions. And at ConAgra, I had to make a lot of tough decisions, and most of them came around people and structure and strategy and vision. You're not always going to be the most liked person, but my goal was to be respected. And those are some of the challenges that I think we have in today's world, in the workplace and even in our personal lives.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you show me a CEO who's wildly popular with the employees, he's probably, or she is probably not a very effective CEO, because that CEO does have to make difficult choices, and those difficult choices oftentimes do revolve around people. So you're not going to be the most popular person, but because you're tasked with making decisions that many people don't want to be forced to make.
That's correct. And I would add this, that if you're going to make tough decisions, you have to be a great listener, and you have to listen to the people around you. When I went to ConAgra, I had to listen to the people around me, number one. Number two, I had to find out, and it was one of my objectives in the first 6 months, who are my advocates? Because without an advocate, you're not going to penetrate the organization and get some help. We can't do it alone. So listening well and making sure people know you listened well by telling them what you heard, and respectfully saying, I merely came to a different conclusion.
So as the CEO, you had to learn strategies, tactics, make tough decisions, and you had to have people that helped you, right? So as the CEO, you didn't do everything, right? Now, you retired after 11 years, and you were in your 50s when you retired from ConAgra. That's when you moved to Kansas City. And so what happened then?
Well, I moved to Kansas City because of family issues. My wife's from this area, and her parents both had Parkinson's disease. One was an invalid, and we made a decision to build a big house here and not put them in a convalescent home.
So you moved them in with you?
We moved them in with us. Best thing we ever did from a family perspective. We had discussions about the kids and how they would react, because they were younger at the time. And actually, it turned out to be the best thing that could happen to a family. The kids would wheel the grandmother around, even though she couldn't talk, and we'd finally see a smile, and the kids participated in this. And so I think that has helped them in their growth, both professionally and personally.
How many kids do you and your wife have, Tony?
2 daughters.
2 daughters, okay. And so they were young enough that they were part of that experience when you moved your wife's parents in with you.
Yeah, and I think that's what builds values. I didn't realize it at the time, but I think it helped build part of our family values.
How much of your experience in the military and your time as CEO of ConAgra has played into your normal life today? I mean, you've been out of that world now as the CEO for 20 years. How is that built? How does that play out in your daily life now?
Well, that's a great question. I think that I can take my shirt off and have you look at my back, and there's a lot of scars on it. And I call those scars experience. As it pertains to today, I was able to take those scars and turn them into wisdom and hopefully help other people not make the same mistakes I made.
Which is essentially how you and I met. You began working with what is now a nationwide CEO group. I think one of the largest nationwide CEO groups in the country, called Vistage. So let's talk a little bit about so you're in retirement, but you decide, well, I'm going to help some other people. I'm going to take these scars, turn them into wisdom. I'm going to help other people avoid mistakes. So talk a little bit about the Vistage program as a whole, and then what drew you to do that, and what drives you to keep doing that still here at the age of 73.
It was all by accident, like most things in life, and you have to adapt. And if you don't adapt to circumstances that come by you, good or bad, you're probably going to get left behind. I had a friend of mine who was the ex-president of Hallmark here in Kansas City, and he said to me, I help these CEOs and business owners, a group of 10, and I help them make better decisions and increase their effectiveness. And when he told me about that, he said, you can't just retire because your brain is the biggest muscle in your body. Every cell is connected to it, and you got to keep it exercised. So he invited me to a meeting to see if these 10 folks would allow me to facilitate their private advisory board of directors. And when I say facilitate, that is different than dictate. Look at when I was a CEO, I realized I couldn't play the instruments out there. I couldn't do the accounting. I couldn't do the operations. I didn't know anything about that. But what I learned in the military helped me facilitate the people around me. And that's why I say you got to understand people, and especially in today's world. So think of an orchestra. You have a conductor. That conductor maybe can play one or two of the instruments, but he has to make the music happen. And to me, that's what leaders do. They take people to a place that they would not have gone by themselves or that they didn't want to go.
That's a key thing there, where they didn't want to go. So, because sometimes there's some scary places, right? that if you're unfamiliar and you've never been there before, you may think, well, I don't want to go there. But then you get there and you're like, wow, what was I so afraid of, right? This isn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. So you've been chairing a group of Vistage, and you've helped, I don't know how many hundreds of business owners improve their business, and you've watched them go from a young business to a mature business to exiting a business, and so you've walked through all of those different phases with people. What drives you to keep doing that today?
We have a family mission statement, and in that mission statement, it talks about helping to survive society by contributing to the success of society. Well, it's the same in business. And I say contributing. I don't have the answers, but what you learn in leadership in the military is asking a lot of questions. And those questions are not to solve people's problems, but to open up different windows of the house and different doors of the house and let them see something that they might not have seen without you. And that ties into taking people to a place where they might not have gone without you. And I can give you a good example. I was on the board of a big public company, and I came to a crossroads with the values that this big public company was asserting in their business. I left a board meeting. I went to the chairman, who is also the CEO of this big company, and I said, I'm resigning because there's a conflict between my value system and what you're doing in this company's value system. And he said something to me that I thought about as I was flying back home. He said, we don't want you to leave. We did an extensive search for you, and what we found out is people would follow you up any mountain not knowing what's on the other side. And as I was flying home, that comment really bothered me, because I don't want people going up a mountain just to follow me and not know what's on the other side, because chances are I don't know what's on the other side.
Right.
And so as I thought about that, and it scared me, that was a turning point in one of the ways that I, going forward, was going to lead people. They're going to know what's on the other side.
So how do you get them there? How do you get them to know what's on the other side? How do you get that? Because you got to build that vision, right? And you got to get them to think beyond what's right in front of them.
It's not a perfect world, and it always doesn't work. But anytime you create a strategy or a vision, you have to think, do I have the right organizational structure? And I learned that in the military also. Do I have the right organizational structure to accomplish and communicate our strategic intent, which is a term that the military uses? It's hard. It's not a perfect world, and everybody isn't going to join the wagon. But if you paint the picture and you give people the chance to be part of it, then they will own it. There's one of the great Harvard articles and studies that came out, and it's called "Whose Back is the Monkey On Now?" If it's all on your back, you will not be successful in your organization.
That's pretty much true in everything in life, right? Not just a business life. That's pretty much true everywhere.
So take that to the next step. people don't realize what they really can do. You got to give them the vision that they can do it and then support them. Example, I used to have a sign on behind my desk, and it said, "Opportunity is nowhere." And they'd come in and they want to put the monkey on my back. And I said, "Look at the sign. Opportunity is nowhere." "Well, what does that mean?" they would say. "Look at it again. Look a little deeper." What it really said was, opportunity is now here. How would you solve that problem?
Yeah.
And then we can have a discussion, and I can ask questions, and hopefully they would do it. And if they did it, whether it was successful or not, because they got scars also, they were on board.
So let's transition this discussion a little bit, Tony, to what I think is really critical and why I wanted you to be part of the Guided Retirement Show here. I believe that when a person retires, that and probably even before that, they become the CEO of their own money, their own financial plan, their own retirement, right? So they're the boss, okay? They have to have that vision. They have to know what is it that they aspire to do in retirement. What do they want that to look like? And I think that a lot of times people don't spend enough time really thinking forward enough to understand what is this retirement time of my life going to look like, and how do I make it as rewarding as it can possibly be, and what I want it to be. And I do believe that they're the CEO of that. But go back to what you said earlier. When you were CEO at ConAgra, you had somebody who was also your CFO, your chief financial officer. They were taking care of all of the finance part of things. You had your chief legal counsel, right? You had other leaders that you, as the CEO, were facilitating, right? And you had to share the vision amongst that entire group of leaders in order to get everybody moving in the same direction so that your strategy could be effective.
That's correct.
That's fair?
That's fair.
All right. So here's the problem that I think, and I want you to reflect on this from a personal level, because most people might say, "Oh my gosh, okay, well, so I don't have an economics degree. I didn't spend this much time in the military. I don't have this. I don't have that. I'm not a CEO. I haven't been able to have the fortune that Tony has." But what you apply in your life today is so similar to what you applied in your CEO life that I don't know if you've thought about this or not. But okay, so Tony, you're a smart enough guy. You could probably do your own tax return, but do you?
No, I don't.
Right. And why? Because you know that there's somebody else that actually is an expert in that area. Okay?
That's correct.
You're a smart enough guy that you could probably run all of your own investments, but do you?
I do not.
Exactly. Okay. Why? Because you're relying still on others. Now, you're probably a smart enough guy that you could, get on some of these websites and draw yourself up a trust. But did you do that?
I did not.
Why? Because you're the CEO of your retirement. You're the CEO of your household. You have to facilitate the mission statement, the vision, the strategy, and then you have to assemble the right team to make sure that all of this works together. And the biggest mistake that I see people making today is they think I can do it on my own. We've been told by various people out there in the financial media that you don't need somebody. You can do your investing on your own. Look, you can go online and you can do a tax return for free, or you can get a tax return out of a box for $99, or you can go out and you can do this LegalZoom and set up your own trust. You can even incorporate yourself. All this stuff, you can just do it all on your own. But that would be, to me, that's as crazy as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company thinking that they can do everything on their own and they don't need any assistance.
Well, you bring up a good point, because when I was younger, I thought I could do it. But as I got older, life became more complex. First of all, tax codes are more complex. I don't do my own tax. I used to, but it's opened up my eyes because I've got tax scars on my back from not making the right decisions when I did it.
And those wrong decisions when it comes to the tax code are expensive. There's no do-over, right? You make a mistake, and it's not that you did your tax return wrong, but you missed opportunities, right?
Missed a lot of opportunities. I missed opportunities in areas of when to take Medicare for my spouse, when to take Social Security for my spouse. I missed opportunities because I was busy in investing. Why didn't, how many times have we heard, I was thinking about buying that stock. Why didn't I? Because I didn't have time. I wasn't focused on playing the instruments in the orchestra. I was focused on conducting. I've made mistakes in my trusts. That's why I go to a person who can look at my trust every 1 or 2 years. Things change in the trust world. Things change in your personal life. Your kids grow up. They're at a different level. They have grandkids. How do you protect your assets when they get married so as to keep those assets within your family, if that's what you choose to do? What happens if your children grow up and something goes wrong? They become druggies. They go on alcohol. They marry the wrong spouse.
Yeah,
you have to maintain that blanket of protection. I used to like to say as a CEO, my job is not to do their job. My job is to let them do it, but give them that catastrophic cover in case something goes wrong.
Right. And as a CEO, you had to have a clear objective. And that clear objective had to be communicated effectively and often to all of your direct reports.
That's correct.
Right?
And over again.
Exactly right. And so think about this idea that somebody thinks that they can go sit down and they can talk to an attorney one time, and the attorney draws up a legal document, a will or a trust, and then they never go back and revisit it. They think that somehow by telepathy, this attorney is going to know that they've had a life-changing event and that they should update that trust or that will, or they're going to wait for the attorney to say, hey, it's time for us to update this. No, that's on you, man. You're the one that You're the one that knows what's happening. You're the one that's got the vision. And if something's changed in that vision or if something's changed within the overall organization or your personal life, you've got to communicate that. Same thing on the tax code. You don't go making decisions on where and how you're going to take money and do all that. You're good without consulting with your tax professional first, because you don't know exactly how it's going to affect your overall plan, and you want to make sure that you're making the right decision and you're doing it smart, just like you would never make that decision as a CEO. And so I say all this because I think that people are so weary of being sold something, or they're weary of, the fact that they don't think that they're smart enough and they don't know how to assemble the right team, or they think that team might be too expensive to hire those professionals to, act as part of the family organization where you're the CEO of it. So I just think it's critical that people understand that, hey, you know what? The cost of missing opportunities in most cases is going to be far greater than the cost of actually hiring somebody that's their expertise.
That's correct. In a lot of the aspects that you just spoke about, as you were speaking, I'm thinking of my own life and the mistakes that I made, and also that just going to an attorney, they're probably not going to call you and say, hey, it's been 2 years. For myself, it took me a long time before I retained an organization that could advise me on tax, that could advise me on my investments, that could advise me on changes I need to do in my estate planning, as I said earlier, as the kids got older, as they had kids, as I got older. And I religiously now take my family, including my kids who are now in their late 30s and 40s, and we go an estate plan review every 2 years. In fact, next week we're going to do it on Thanksgiving week when all the kids will be together.
Another cool thing that I think you do, Tony, which I think there's a lot of people that, and I don't know what it is, there's this generation where people didn't share. They didn't talk about what was happening from a financial perspective. They didn't have a family mission statement. But you have family meetings where you talk about that mission statement. You talk about the values that you want the family to aspire to. And you talk about the legacy plan. And it's not just about money. It's about your effect on society as a whole. And I've run into people that they'll say, well, I don't want my kids to know what I have. You personally have had to deal with a scenario where you're the trustee of your father's trust. How long has that been going on?
Oh, let's see. It's almost 25 years.
Okay. And once you had to do that, I want you to talk about the position that put you in first and how it's impacted the relationship with your siblings.
Well, it hasn't been good. My father was an attorney, and he drew up the trust, and he wanted me to administer the trust, which I'll give him credit. It was a learning experience of being the trustee. Plus, I had a sister who was not capable of even knowing what a trust is. And so I administered the trust. I did the trading in the trust of the stocks and the investments thereof with objectives that my father gave me in terms of income.
And all that was laid out in the trust document that he wrote.
Correct. And that income related to his well-being. And as it happened, he lived to 100. So most people might just not think about it, but he lived to 100. So I wrote checks every quarter to him. Now I still write it to his spouse. And then the real estate that's involved in the trust, somebody has to manage all of that. It's a lot of work. I personally will not do that to my kids. Now, for me, I didn't mind doing it. I had a little bit more background, but 99% of the people don't have the background to do this.
But you see this happen over and over and over again, where people say, "Well, I'm just going to name my children as a trustee if I'm incapable of making my own decisions." And I don't think they understand the burden that places on children. And again, most of the people that inherit money are going to inherit money when they're 40s or 50s or maybe even their 60s, and so maybe that's an adult child, but you have a lot of things going on in your life at that point in time, and throwing something like this that's super important. And because of the fact that you're the trustee, that means you're a fiduciary. That means you are legally bound to act in the best interest of what that trust says all the time. So you have a legal responsibility as well that I don't think that a lot of people think about when they're naming their children as their successor trustee.
And especially if they have to administer it with other people in the family involved. As I said earlier about my sister, I get emails and calls about once a month. Well, can't you do this? Well, why can't you do that? It's our money. It's our, and I say, I have a fiduciary responsibility to do exactly what the trust says. That's what our father put down, and that's what I have to do. So I'm sorry, I apologize.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
You're doing the right thing, but it puts you in a difficult situation as far as your relationship then with your sister.
That's correct. And for that reason, again, for that scar on my back, my kids have their kids to raise. And those kids are going to go to college. I involve them in what's in our trust. In fact, we, as you said earlier, we have our family meetings. We go over the investments. We go over what we're doing. They know what the trust is. They know who the trustee will be once I pass on.
Or you're not capable of
Or I'm not capable.
Right.
And who the successor trustees would be and how they choose those successor trustees.
See, these things, Tony, require a lot of deep reflection. They require a lot of thought. They require us to face our own limitations. They require us to face our own mortality. None of those things are really very fun to think about or to do. And so many people, they just kind of bury their head in the sand and they think, well, somehow it'll all work out, right?
Well, let me give you an example. I have a business colleague, and his mother is 87 years old, lives back in New York by herself. Her husband has passed, and all she has is a will that was written 50 years ago.
Perfect.
And guess what? Wills are not actually...
they're not a good estate planning tool.
Not only that, the kids may find out that everything goes into... Probate.
And it's public.
And when you address... When my colleague addresses his mother on this issue, she says, don't worry about it.
It's all going to be fine. So, Tony, the thing we've heard over and over again is that Mama always said everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, and it's not going to be fine because I've looked into this with him. I had my attorney look into it, and probably this is going to go into probate.
Well,
and
it will go into probate.
2 kids...
Look, probate is a long and expensive process.
That's right.
And probate is so easy to avoid, but you've got to get it done right. And we, in fact, in our guided retirement show, episode 8 of season 1, we'll talk with a couple of estate planning attorneys in that episode. If you haven't listened to it, get out there and listen to it, where we talk specifically about the difference between wills and trusts. And it's a huge difference, right? Now, not everybody needs a trust, but most people that have done a decent job of accumulating money, they do. And the trust isn't for just once you've passed, right? Think about this. I'm going to go back to your business colleague, and you may or may not know the answer to this, but if she becomes incapable of making financial decisions, that will does not dictate, like your father's trust did, how those financial decisions are to be made and what's to be done and how bills are to be paid, right?
That's correct.
So a big part of a trust is making sure that while you're still here, that everything is taken care of in the fashion that you had intended. And so again, if you have decent money, you want to make sure that you've got a trust set up. But go back to this whole idea that people think that, well, I can just go online and I can create this trust on my own. I've seen so many disasters, Tony, and you've probably witnessed them too, where people thought they had it all done. And, okay, well, we got this beautiful trust binder, but guess what? Nothing was ever titled in the name of the trust.
That's correct.
That happens all the time, doesn't it?
It sure does. Yeah. We title everything, but my kids wouldn't know how to do it unless we had these family meetings and we talked about these things.
So in your family meetings, would you go through your vision statement, your family vision statement?
Yeah, we go through our family vision statement, our mission, and each year they come with their yearly goals and objectives of what they wanted to accomplish in the next year, and they talk about what they accomplished or did not accomplish in their goals and objectives of the year that just passed.
That's a pretty cool dynamic.
I would tell you a funny story. So when I started this, the kids were 7 and 9. I think so. And I started it with the idea that, you know what, we'll just make it fun. So we would go to Mexico to a resort, or we'd go to Colorado to a resort for a week, and then we would have our family meetings at that resort in a conference room, and we'd make it fun. Well, when my daughter was old, one of the daughters was older, I believe she was 16, 17, she wanted to bring her boyfriend. I said, okay, fine. And this is really a funny story that I never forgot. So we are in our first day's family meeting, and he comes down to the conference room, and he says, do you mind if I sit in? And I looked at him and I said, yes, as a matter of fact, we do. This is a private meeting where we go over our mission statement, our goals and objectives, and we go over the financials. And this year, my daughter is the CEO of this family meeting, so she has planned it all. So we went into the meeting, we did our thing all day long, and at 3 o'clock, we broke up, and we opened the door, and here he is outside. And he said, Mr. Lewis, I hope you guys had a good meeting. Would you like to know my goals and objectives for next year?
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's what we do in our family meetings, and we try to go someplace that's nice. Now, we don't always have time now as they have kids. So we've done the last few here in Kansas City.
You know, it's interesting because I learned that from you, and then I actually conducted my first family meeting about a year ago, and we've got the next one planned for, it's about 4 months from now. And so my kids thought it was pretty cool. They're a little bit older. My oldest daughter now is 29. My youngest daughter's 19. But it was an interesting dynamic, and also had, girlfriends, boyfriends, son-in-law, and I did the same thing. No, this is private, right? We're going to sit and we're going to have this meeting, and it is what it is. And so that was an interesting dynamic. But I think that what you did here, and what a lot of people could take away from this, is that you put a seriousness and you put a plan together for your family, not just for your finances, but how that family is going to impact society. And you're working that plan each and every year, right? It's not something that you sit down once and talk about and you write down a mission statement and that's it. And that's, I think, ties to your role as a CEO, your role in the military, but also your role as a family man. And I think that every single person, if they're going to do it right, and they're going to make sure that they're actually going to live the one life that they have to the extent that they can, and make sure that they've left nothing to chance, they've got to take the time to do that planning. And yet so many times we see people spending more time planning a family vacation than they will on planning how that family is going to impact society, or planning their finances or their retirement, because they just think that somehow everything's going to be okay.
That's correct. And the learning process is not overnight. If you involve your kids in it, the most rewarding part about this is teaching them responsibility by letting them do it, not by telling them how to do it. And they love it when they get to be the CEO of the family vacation or meeting, as we call it.
What was that dynamic like the first time? So your daughter was 16 or 17 years old when you let her be the CEO and she planned the meeting. How did that go?
It went great because we had been doing it all along as I was doing it. And the bait, of course, was, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
What part of the fun do you want? And if you want to have fun, you got to work hard to get it. So plan the other part of the meeting. I go to the Mayo Clinic for my physicals, and on the wall it says, in one of the buildings, it says, work hard first, play hard next, and give hard.
Yeah. So how has what you learned from your military experience, your CEO experience, I know that that's obviously leaked over into your family life, and it's leaked over into your planning for your family and your mission statement and all that. How has that impacted your daughters in their professional career and in their personal lives as they have matured and gone out into the workforce and are on their own today?
Well, I would tell you that, first of all, and unexpectedly, they were off the payroll the day they graduated college. Not because I said it. It's because they knew where they were going. They had a plan. And one daughter has a master's in finance. The other daughter has her own business. And the day after she left college, she went to New York City to seek out what her passion was. I told her I would help her for 6 months. And guess what? She said, I don't need any help. I already got a job.
That's awesome.
And she has her own business ever since that experience, and she loves what she's doing. The daughter that lives here in Kansas City, she's a controller of a big public company here, loves what she's doing. But they both have kids, and they have to balance their life. And I think that when you talk about estate planning, tax planning, investment planning, all of these things, everything has a balance. And so you have to balance all of those ingredients, I believe, as you look to the future. And the future changes. It's not a straight line.
It's dynamic, and everything is intertwined.
Yes.
Right? Every one of those components that you just talked about affect the other. And so that if you don't have that good, solid plan and that strategy together, that's when things get missed. And I think it's interesting because it's no accident that your daughters are successful. It's no accident that, you're successful. Your father obviously did some things for you to help you understand and look at this. Now, you worked hard. And like you said earlier, you got a lot of scars, and those scars are mistakes, and you learn from those mistakes. You turn those into knowledge, and now you can apply that. So if you had, Tony, some simple advice, and let's just talk about the average, what I'll call the millionaire next door, the man and the woman who've worked hard, they've saved a good amount of money, and they're headed into retirement in the next 5 years, or maybe they're already in retirement. What kind of advice would you give to these people?
Well, first of all, every day you wake up and you don't see white candles burning or hear soft music, you're going to live one day less. So get up and start looking at the future and how you might live longer and how you might live a more comfortable life that you deserve for all the work you put in. I would suggest to people to get an advisor that would help you in thinking about and identifying just what it is in your particular case that you need to live comfortably from whatever age that is, 50 to whatever. And don't forget that how you invest, how you do your trusts, how you take care of family issues that might come up, how you do your tax, which in today's world can save you a lot of money if you let a professional do it. You will live the life that you want to live. And I think that's what a really great wealth manager will help you do. It's not just one thing. It's all the things.
It's coordinating all the pieces. But I think one thing that you missed, and I don't know if you intentionally missed this or not, but you're the CEO, man. You are in charge. And if you can't bare your soul and make it clear what you want your life to look like, you can hire anybody you want, but you're going to be disappointed because most people aren't clairvoyant. They can't read your mind. You have to be open, honest, and clear about what it is that you're looking for. And you have to hire somebody that's going to be willing to say, you know what, that's not me. Or, you know what, that's me. We can absolutely do that. And so I don't know if you intentionally missed that or if you just didn't think about it.
Well, I did think about it, and I thought when I was communicating that you have to go to somebody that can knit all the pieces together and can ask you the tough questions that you're not going to ask yourself because you don't know the questions. Because these are professional people. These people understand investments. They understand tax. They understand estate planning, and they understand your elderly years. And so they will ask questions that even if you were the smartest person in the world, you wouldn't think of.
Yeah. Let's tie that into some of your traveling that you've done over the years. What do you think is probably your most exciting trip that you've ever taken?
Probably aside from the military excursions, I would say Africa.
Okay. Now, it's pretty easy to book an airline to go to Africa. Hop off the airplane, find a rental car company, and just go. Is that what you did?
Nope.
You hired a guide, didn't you?
When I was younger, I learned that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we hired an agent to coordinate it, and then when we got there, we had a guide, and that guide took us on a trip that we had somewhat planned from a macro standpoint. He did all the tactical stuff, and he took us to the micro places that we would not have thought of within the plan. As an example, we went to Cape Town. Well, Cape Town is on the map. Anybody can go to Cape Town, but there's a lot of things in Cape Town to see and learn. He put us on a train. It's called the Blue Train. And we took that Blue Train, which is an excursion train, all the way up through the different parts of Africa, the national parks, and we ended up in Victoria Falls. Well, Victoria Falls is on the map. But guess what? There are a lot of things to see, learn, and connect to. Connecting is the thing that guides do. They connect you to your plan and to your objective.
That's cool. So, I try to use that analogy a lot, Tony, because I think that so many people think, well, I can do all this stuff myself. And let's not make any mistake. You could have gone to Africa. You could have stepped off the airplane, found the rental car place, and you could have said, hey, we went to Africa. But your experience wouldn't have been anywhere close to what it was. And why was it the way it was? It was because you had, first of all, a destination in mind, and then you had an experience in mind of what you wanted to do, what you wanted that trip to be like. Then you hired the guide, and then they did a lot of the work, and then they took you to places or did things in Africa that you never even would have thought of. And to me, that's what a good retirement guide is going to do for you, right? They're first going to sit down and listen, and they're going to ask all the questions, and they're going to figure out what it is that you want this retirement experience to look like, and then guide you through all of the different nuances from taxes to investments to estate planning and risk management, Social Security decisions, everything, because it all ties together with one goal: to help you live your one best financial life, and to do it with clarity and confidence and control, so that you only got one chance to do this.
That's correct. You only got one chance, and it's so dynamic today. All of those areas you just spoke about are changing each year. There's new regulations. There's new laws. You yourself, as the client, have new desires. And so putting that all together, I like to say time is money. And if you have other things to do in your life, you'll never get to do them, and you'll never learn about all these things. There's just not enough time.
Totally agree with you, Tony. Hey, thanks so much for taking some time out of your retirement schedule. I know you're busy sitting on a lot of boards and, doing your things with the Vistage group and all that. And if you've been listening and you think, oh, I'm a business owner, I want to know more about this Vistage thing, Vistage.com is the website. You'll also see the Vistage Small Business Index in the Wall Street Journal just about every month, where CEOs from all around the country get a chance to tell the Wall Street Journal what they think about the economy, how's it impacting their business, et cetera. Just a lot of great things that Vistage group does. And I've been a part of that now for almost 6 years, and it really helped change my view on business and really building that vision internally. And it's helped me be a better financial planner so that I can translate that data into helping people be better CEOs of their own finance and their own retirement. So really appreciate you taking the time, Tony, to be with us here today. Thanks again, Tony.
Thank you.
So there you have it. Tony Lewis, CEO, retired, military, but still at it today, still guiding people to truly understand that you're in control of your own future. And if you want to learn about Vistage, find the links in our show notes at guidedretirementshow.com/21. That's guidedretirementshow.com/21. It's been invaluable to me and my business and the impact of my personal relationships and being able to talk with other people from all aspects of life, because we're all intertwined in some way. And there's just about every single business has similar issues and problems. And the Vistage Group really helps you understand how to deal with those issues from people that have been there before and they've done that. And it's decisions that you make today that are going to impact your future. I hope you enjoyed the Guided Retirement Show. If you haven't subscribed to the Guided Retirement Show, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Share this episode with your friends. There was something in here for just about everybody that you know, whether they're in business or just to impact their personal life. Thank you for listening to the Guided Retirement Show. I'm Dean Barber.
Investment advisory services offered through Barber Financial Group and SEC registered investment advisor.